Welcome to 0xdigest.com episode 1, where we broadly discuss the crypto ecosystem, giving attention and focus to the Brave browser and their basic attention token, with an approach of privacy-centric focus designed to prevent targeted ads and spam. Brave browser flips the switch on the advertisement industry, providing incentives, allowing new paradigm in browsing, both on mobile and desktop. The following dialogue broadly brushes on the history and future of Brave. Layer 2 side chains, scaling solutions, their newest Solana integration, also touching on the formation of Noise Chain and their recent acquisition of XDice. We hope you enjoy the conversation with an open mind and recall, this is not a financial advice.
Welcome, Luke Mokes. Today is January 26, 2022. The markets are shaking. Federal Reserve Chair Powell is set to speak to the microphone in just under an hour. Past 2 weeks, we've seen equities off some 10%, crypto some 40. It's been bloody, it's been chaotic. So let's learn a little bit about Web3. We're here with Luke Mokes, Chief of Business Development at Brave Browser. Luke, could you give us your official title? Would that be sufficient to say?
No, it's VP of Business Operations, but I've done a ton of work in business development at Brave, and been at Brave for quite a long time. So no, that's apt.
Beautiful. And I understand you guys have some 35 million monthly active users, so quite the statistics you're padding. We're looking to
50.2 to be exact.
50.2 is growing. Awesome. Well, I am an avid user of Brave Browser. I think when I load my homepage, it shows I've saved a couple hours from watching ads, and let's see, blocked a couple thousand trackers along the way. So I appreciate what you guys have created, as well as 50 million other people month by month. So could you give us a little a basic layman's term of an introduction to BAT and Brave?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Brave is kind of trying to address a lot of the problems that have happened with Web 2 over the years. My background was in startups and in publishing and advertising, but really in advertising before I started Brave. And you could see what was happening. What started off as kind of this way to have a free internet with ads on sites became this just Goliath of programmatic advertising and data collection from a lot of companies, but ultimately going upstream to a small handful of companies, right? And what happened through that is basically users lost their agency on the web to big tech. And what Brave is trying to do is kind of shift the paradigm to include people in the value exchange of information online, and also to give people control back over their web. So that means with BAT, and the first case we addressed with BAT was the advertising use case, because there weren't really any advertising models on the web, and advertising such a model for fueling income on the web, right? There weren't any models out there that were privacy preserving or that didn't, invade your privacy by default. And to be very clear, basically it's a business requirement in the traditional web to sacrifice your users' privacy kind of as a cost of doing business for advertising, right? And there wasn't anything else out there. And Brave was the first thing I saw where you had a small core team, and this is back in 2016, and you had a group that was starting to put ideas and concepts out there for how they could use crypto to make really, really strong private advertising work on the web, and then make it work not just for users and advertisers, but also for creators, content creators on the web. And so that's where it kind of started.
About that. In regards to content creators or even browsing the web, I can earn that by just browsing on Brave. Could you explain that?
Yeah, so the way the model works, and this was our first case that we brought to market, was with ads. So basically, advertisers buy ads through Brave ads, right? Those campaigns are fueled with BAT. So the user earns 70% of the revenue of the ad that they view in BAT. So Brave gets 30%, the user gets 70%, right? And then we have a system within the browser that lets the user tip creators or automatically contribute to them where the browser will, basically apportion out the BAT that you earn over the month based on the creators that you're visiting, and then will, automatically kind of like contribute to them throughout the month. Or you can just hold your BAT. Like, we give users choice. Like, that's basically what we're trying to do here. But we're trying to include the users because up until now, you have this huge landscape of companies that are profiting basically and generating business off of users' information. And that's either by directly collecting it or sharing it or syncing it, or, a multitude of other ways that this data gets chopped, sliced, and stored all over the place and copied and repurposed, right? So anyway, so Brave wants to change the paradigm. We want to flip the script. Instead of having a system where every site you go to basically, sends out your caller ID to a bunch of a bunch of companies that you've never even heard of, we've created a model that can use local machine learning on your browser to look at the local data and then basically match advertising on your device from a catalog of ads that are available. Just like how you get, a catalog in the mail, right? That has a bunch of products in it. So imagine you have an ad catalog that has a bunch of different advertisements in it. And the device basically determines which of those ads are the best ones to serve to you. And this all happens locally. And then we use zero knowledge proofs protocols to do the reporting. So we don't link back users to the ads they view to Brave. So Brave's basically blinded of who our users are, but we're accounting for the activity that the users are engaging in. So that way advertisers can get paid or pay us and have reliable accounting. And Brave has deniability over, who our users are, what they're browsing, all of that, because all this activity is happening on the user's browsers. Nobody's ever done this before, by the way. Like, this is a new technology that we brought to market. And the reason why is because it's very counter to the way that advertising business has worked online, where, okay, I go to a page, all these different companies get data about me. They all bid on that data to show me an ad. And then there's a bunch of other companies that all track that ad to tell everybody that the ad was served. And it's a really big mess. And we said, we don't need to do that. From the browser, we can serve ads. We can have this done locally. Users, instead of getting harvested by these companies, will give the user 70% of the revenue, which is like huge. Like, it's a huge, if you look at it, like, it almost looks insane as a business model, because, a traditional business would be like, you're always trying to kind of incentivize towards as much profit capture as you can, right? Like, but with this, we're actually giving 70% of our revenue away to our users. And so, and we're using the token as the unit to do that. And that's just the beginning, right? But with that beginning case, which we brought to market in April of 2019 in our release channel, it's been in market for 2 years now, and almost 2 years. And the business has grown significantly. It's multi-millions of dollars a month coming through from advertisers. We have big advertisers from big agencies involved. We've seen crypto companies, because
elaborate on the actual utility of the BAT token. How does that 70% of revenue get back to the BAT token holder?
Yeah. So the user basically is earning as they view ads throughout the month, right? So that
in BAT,
right? And at the end of the month, we basically settle out BAT to the users, and so users can stay anonymous to keep the BAT in the ecosystem.
So advertisers buy BAT, you dish that back to the user's browsing.
Yeah. So here's the challenge, right? Like, and it's a great question. So yeah, it's a great question. It's because, the challenge with this, and with any new crypto business that's dealing with crypto, right, especially when we were dealing with it, was like, how do you onboard traditional business models into Web3, right? And so for us, it was like, okay, we'll offer up, advertisers can buy campaigns in BAT if they have crypto, or they can buy in USD. And if they buy in USD or fiat currency, right, or stablecoin or whatever, right, like, if they buy in that, non-BAT currency, what we'll do is we'll take 70% of that ad buy and buy BAT back with it, and then use that BAT as the distribution to our users. So that users are getting that 70% of the BAT revenue for the ads they view, whether the advertiser has bought BAT directly or if the advertiser has paid with a fiat, and in which case we buy BAT for that 70%, and distribute that back to the user. And we have, if you go to brave.com/transparency, we list all of the BAT buys that we do every month. And we basically schedule those buys based on, when we receive, invoice payments from fulfillment from the advertisers that we bill out.
Okay. Now, I'll check that out. Brave.com/transparency.
Yeah. Brave.com/transparency. And we also have, content creator accounts there and active campaigns and countries.
That will show BAT that Brave browser is purchasing to dish back out. Will it show such anything as inflationary rates of the token supply?
No. So there's also a second page that we have. It's basicattentiontoken.org/transparency. Or not transparency, I'm sorry, /growth. The basicattentiontoken.org/growth, which is more focused on the token itself. And so what we have there, we've got, on-chain holders, we've got rewards holders there. What we're adding there and on the transparency page as part of our multi-chain, cross-chain strategy that we're doing with that, we're going to be adding in, holder counts on different chains as well, that we wrap BAT on, and distribution there too, because there's 1.5 billion total supply of BAT, right? And that's and that's we only did a one-time sale, and that's it, right? And so.
And tell me about that sale. You sold out in seconds. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it was wild, right? Like, it was back in May 31st of 2017, and that was when the ICO craze was just kind of really starting to warm up, and it also was before any U.S. regulatory agencies had really said much about what was going on in crypto with token sales. So we raised $36 million in about 24 seconds, and basically slowed down the network, Ethereum network, to a crawl because people were basically trying to get into this thing, and broke Etherscan in the process too. So it's funny. It's kind of interesting now seeing some of these new network issues that we're seeing with, Arbitrum had kind of some downtime, and Solana's had some, throughput issues, right? Like it all is flashing back to early day Ethereum stuff that we saw. But yeah, it was 24. It was the fastest token sale at the time. And then I think we got beat out maybe in June or something like that by another token sale. But at the time it was a frenzy, and it's weird because you spend months and months just kind of going out, road showing the white paper, getting everybody involved. Like I was with Brendan on a bunch of AMAs and a bunch of, he was
tell our audience who Brendan.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Brendan Ike is our CEO and co-founder at Brave. Brendan Ike created JavaScript in 10 days in the 1990s, was at Netscape, and also was the co-founder of Firefox, Mozilla Firefox, and brought that.
That's how you raise so much in limited amount of time.
Well, that's what was really different about what we were doing too, because if you remember, it was a lot of vaporware and white papers and hopium being kind of thrown around. Anything we can attach the word blockchain to, we'll go raise some money for it. With us, it was like, no, like we had already had a product in market. It was an early stage product, but it had thousands of users by the time we did our token sale. In addition to that, we had also done a proof of concept of called Brave Payments, which used Bitcoin before we did our token sale. So we had a functional token utility model with Bitcoin in the browser. So after less than 6 months after our token sale, flash forward to like October of 2017, we swapped out Bitcoin for BAT in Brave Payments, and then eventually that became Brave Rewards. So we were able to just kind of adapt the existing model. And that was really appealing to people, because not only do you have like this titan, like, big brain, Brendan Ike kind of leader in this space leading the project, but also we were a functional product. You could go download us on, the Play Store or from our website and use the product that we were talking about, which was a huge difference compared to everything else that was basically out at the time.
Would you ever foresee a future where Brave browser users would be able to earn in, say, a different token, call it Wrap Bitcoin or Sol or ETH, rather than earning that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and some of this, and I kind of like anecdotally see some of this too in the community. I mean, it's been specifically challenging, but no negatives here. It's a good challenge to have. We brought a token to market. We had Bitcoin in beforehand. We got a lot of hate from Bitcoin maximalist people, right? Like when we brought that, they said you don't need that. You use Bitcoin. The reality is we needed that because we hit scaling issues with Bitcoin before it was cool. So it was like but the point being, when we would get hate from folks, like we had a lot of other Bitcoin people that were like, well, wait a minute, like I'm earning BAT. I can just flip that into sats and be good. And so, a lot of folks will that the flip it into Satoshis or Bitcoin, right? Like they'll swap out BAT for Bitcoin after they earn it, and then just keep adding to their Bitcoin pile.
Denominated in Bitcoin.
Yeah, so basically, like we've seen some of that, but to fast forward, right? Like where we're going with this, and we just released a wallet on Brave. It's Brave Wallet in November and on in December on mobile. So now all 52 million monthly active users in Brave have a self-custodial wallet in the browser, which is huge, right? Like and where we have a swap feature in there too. So I think giving people options is what
that across multiple chains, or is that strictly on Solana?
So right now, the on desktop we support Ethereum and EVM chains. So buying a smart chain, Polygon. What was that?
Any EVM chain?
Pretty much any EVM, and you can also add like L2s too, right?
What did you guys do with Solana recently? You integrated something with Solana.
So
right
in November we did an announcement at Solana's Breakpoint conference, and what we're doing with them is like this wallet that we're bringing to market. It's a multi-chain wallet, right? So right now we support EVMs and Ethereum. Solana will be the first L1 integration that we do. That's a non-EVM L1. And basically, we're going to integrate the Solana blockchain. If there's a multi-chain dApp out there, that will default to Solana for that because the transaction fees are low. Like and the throughput's good enough for us to do that compared to what we're dealing with on other chains, right? So but the wallet itself is going to be multi-chain, right? Like and it already is on desktop. It'll be there on mobile too. But basically, we're a browser, right? So we're blockchain agnostic. We want to give users the best Web3 experience they can get. And so that means that, we have to make it accessible. Like we've been doing a lot of evaluation of the Alt-L1 ecosystems, the use on Ethereum too, and et cetera. And for this year, we are planning to integrate Solana as the first Alt-L1 other than Ethereum. We're also going to integrate Bitcoin, which then allows us to also integrate forks of Bitcoin like Doge, Litecoin, etc. And we're also going to add Filecoin support because we have IPFS natively integrated in the Brave browser too.
Okay. So we've seen PlaytoEarn on a rise when it comes to gaming. Now, let's not forget Brave was the first browse to earn. Sounds right.
It's interesting because there's all these parallels, right? Like, or examples where PlaytoEarn became really hot this last year, and then in 2020, DeFi summer, right? And in a way, like what you could get, the experience with that in Brave is very similar to what you would get from yield farming in DeFi, where you're just like kind of staking collateral. In Brave, you're basically like staking your attention, right? And then you're incrementally earning off of that, and then you can compound it every month, right? So
these the benefits you see to Web3, just taking ownership for use.
I think
your attention.
If I had to put it in one word, it's empowerment, right? Like what we're able to do with Web3 is shift the game. It's a game changer, right? Like users, if we can give users protection from Web2 threats to privacy and restore agency there, but also if we can start to show them these power tools that are available in Web3, and even for more mainstream users, if we can start to filter down like safer quote unquote versions of DeFi use cases that can be used by millions and millions of people, that's a huge win, right? Like I think on the financial side, you're empowered on your finances as a creator. You're empowered in that you can have your own artwork that you set the terms on, that you can sell, that you can, that has the resiliency that you get with Web3, whether you're, pinning it to IPFS or having control over that and not being, getting that disintermediation from big tech, right? I think that it's all about empowerment, and it's all about accessibility, and it's all about owning what you own and being able to have that control and agency. That's what Web3 is. And removing it from the gatekeepers that have basically built these huge moats and walled gardens around the open internet. I don't know, you go to websites now, every single site's basically asking you to log in with Google. Google's trying to log you in the browser every chance they can get. Like, your data it's a free fire zone on all of your information unless you're protecting yourself these days, right? Like, and so if Brave can be kind of like that protective armor around those threats, while also being a gateway to open up the potential around these things. And it's still early with Web3, but I think it's undeniable now at this point, between what you've seen in DeFi and between what we started to see happening with NFTs, the potential here to like really shake things up is huge. And we want to be there on that forefront. We're not treating this like a science experiment or like a little siloed, thing that lives over here for developers. We're saying, like, how can we interweave Web3 protocols into a browser and do it in a way that keeps the promises to our users that they expect from us, which is user first, principles, meaning that, always trying to side on the interest of the user, right? Whether that's giving them 70% of the revenue share or other offers. Like, we have a swap rewards program where if you swap with us, we'll give you back like a 20% rebate in BAT. We're getting ready to release that. So like, this token attention, the attention economy goes
beyond that come from, Luke, if you do a rebate like that, if someone uses the Brave wallet to do a swap, you mentioned a 20% rebate. Where does that BAT come from? So there's a 0.875% base fee that's on the swaps that you make in Brave Swap. So, and we use like a DEX aggregator that's powered by 0x on Ethereum. And basically, like, so we'll make all your transactions that you do throughout the month, basically you'll end up getting a 20% rebate from those fees that you paid in. So it's just another way to give back rewards with BAT to users, right? Like, aside from advertising even. And I think that what you can see is just more and more use cases for BAT. The attention economy goes beyond advertising, especially with the fact that like BAT was adopted in DeFi organically and very early. Like MakerDAO, BAT was one of the first assets that they added after, when they started adding altcoins, basically. And we got in early in in compound finance. Like, there was a big like blip on the radar in June of 2020 about that, where they ended up changing the compound governance. They did a network upgrade because people were, gaming it in there, but BAT was being used for that. Anyway, all this stuff happened organically, right? Like with the DeFi. And that was just the market deciding they wanted to put BAT into DeFi. And so what we can do with that is like huge, because look at the multi-chain ecosystems right now, right? Like, you can wrap BAT through and use bridges like Wormhole that can go to pretty much every other chain you'd want to go to. We can go in and seed liquidity in these new L1 ecosystems with BAT, and then use BAT to buy NFTs and use BAT for other purposes, right? And because every BAT should be there in the attention economy, wherever there's a use case that's valid for it. And with Brave, it's like we're at 50.2 million monthly active users. We're in a multi-chain world. Those users are using different chains. Like, we should have a presence, everywhere we can get. And plus, for token holders too. I mean, like, if you look at 1.5 billion total BAT, right? Like, if we could start locking value in DeFi, in NFTs, in metaverse plays, in these. So tell us more about DeFi. Have BATs locked as collateral for multiple different DeFi products.
Yeah, sure. So for example, like, Compound was early, but Bancor has BAT as well for you can just put in collateral in Compound, earn back, APY on that. Aside from MakerDAO, Aave, Compound, like they were early to all these, right? Also Bancor, and then a lot of, we started seeing
And
like
give us a layman's terms on that. Someone who doesn't understand DeFi.
so basically it's just like a high interest savings account. You take your BAT, you can lock it in a smart contract, and you can take it out anytime you want. But while it's locked in that smart contract, you're earning compounding interest rates at an annual per year rate, right? So like I think right now it's around or under, slightly under like 1%. When the markets were getting high though, like you can see like these rates go up higher and higher. For example, like Gemini had BAT in for Gemini Earn. It's their variation of DeFi where you can deposit it there, earn back daily compounding interest. You could earn 3.49% interest on BAT in Gemini Earn. They recently cut that down when they were doing rate adjustments, but like these are out there, right? Like
and drawing a loan. Let's say you wanted to lock up your BAT, pay an interest fee, and draw a loan.
Yeah. You could do that through
generate a stablecoin.
Exactly. And so you see people that they can make leverage positions, or they can borrow, lend, right? Like, and you're either, if you're borrowing, you're paying interest on that borrow at an interest rate. If you're lending, you're earning interest, right? Like, and it's all through these DeFi protocols. But the success of those has also drawn attention from like BlockFi's, Gemini, and other protocols or other applications that are more consumer facing and they're custodial, right? Where they're trying to kind of emulate what has happened decentralized way with DeFi on their platforms for their customers and their users. And so you're starting to see that kind of progression happening. And I think there's an option for us in Brave to keep a self-custody model, like a decentralized model that has an auto earn that's similar to what you'll see on like a Gemini earn, but do it trustlessly through DeFi protocols. Like if we can do that in our wallet, where you could, I can deposit, a stable coin and get an auto earn interest rate that's really good from that. And I can also do the same with that. Like then you've got really easy ways to show people benefits of DeFi without having to explain it to them. Basically, like push a button, put your BAT in here. It's sitting there anyway. Like put it in here, you earn some interest, right? Like super easy. It's like a savings account. And I think the real power with this is when you start to get it to that level. People are familiar with a savings account rate. They've had banks, and some banks require you to even pay for that privilege, and the rates are so abysmal. It's like, okay, if we can get to the point where it's an easy decision to put $100 in a bank account or $100 as a stable coin and earn 8 interest compared to like less than 1%, like I think people are going to go for that 8%. It's just a matter of us making that accessible for people and making it safe and make sure it's like something that people aren't going to get rug pulled and all that stuff. But we're going in that direction, right? Like that. And that's what's exciting is, I've been here for a long time. I've been here when we had tens of thousands of users up to like the first million to like 50 million. And when the numbers get this big, it's like, whoa, you can really start to see the change starting to happen. And I think, you're seeing that even in a wider lens, like with PayPal, Venmos, all.
Where are those users coming from? What countries?
We're about 35 to 40% in the US. We have a good, probably another 20-25% in Western Europe. We have a good contingent of folks in Southeast Asia because of the crypto markets there, and a growing cohort of people from LATAM too, because a lot of folks. It really is interesting because some regions will pick up Brave because of the benefits of the browser. So if you look at like South America, Central America, where you have users that might be mobile only, and they might be on plans where they're throttled, have data allowances and all these kind of like older school telecom plans, right? Like, well, if Brave is going to save you data and save you battery life, Brave is really well optimized for mobile. So like we really do well on mobile in like Brazil and other countries like that. In other countries in like Southeast Asia or like the US, we see a lot of crypto people that like Brave. It's pretty globally distributed, and we're about 50-50 desktop and mobile too. But like a lot of focus on the business side has been in the US, mainly because we have a sales team based here, but also we're branching out into other markets too.
So I cut you off a few minutes back. You mentioned the Brave wallet is EVM compatible, Ethereum Virtual Machine. Which specific L2s?
Yeah, so right now you can go in and add in, you could add in Polygon, Binance Smart Chain. You can add in any, like almost pretty much any EVM is compatible with our wallet. You could also add in, Arbitrum or other L2s, right? Like that are available. And we're working at Avalanche too, et cetera, right? Like we have all support for all those now. One thing that we're working on is making it a lot easier for folks when they onboard to just like maybe even have an option where they can, select all and like have a wallet address generator for each one of those. So it's just very plug and play. So we're working on that stuff too. But basically any EVM compatible chain works in Brave with our wallet on desktop. Mobile will be within the next month or so. It's landing on mobile, but like desktop is there. And then the other thing we're adding too is like NFT support natively on both desktop and mobile too.
Neat. Luke, do you have any opinion on the recent merger with Gnosis and XDAI Stake?
I don't have enough information to comment intelligently on it, to be honest. There's so much going on in the space with Multichain that I noticed that they did do a cutover and basically like, rebrand, but I haven't dug in there. And there's actually some BAT that was on XDAI too. It was a small amount, but some of the stuff we started to discover, we're like, wow, like people have already been like wrapping BAT on some pretty interesting chains that we hadn't really heard much bubble up from the community on. But yeah, I don't have strong opinions on that one.
What's interesting with it from my angle, in my opinion, is the native gas is spent in a stable coin, right? So rather than spending my ETH on gas and given it's on an L2 to bridge on, of course, is an expense. Say I'm spending Matic in gas. That Matic's always changing in price. Different from Gnosis chain, where I'm always using XDAI as my gas. So that's their angle.
I think it's awesome. Like I think right now is the time for having these types of different approaches because these are serious problems that have to get solved for scaling. And it's interesting because you've got an emergence of L1s that have shown up that have one set of issues they have to deal with, which are all kind of early network issues, but then on the other end, you've got Ethereum and incumbents that have been in the market for a long time, have a lot of value locked in and have to kind of bring this whole end game L2 scaling solution to market. There's a lot that has to work right for that to work. And I'm not saying it's not going to work. It's going to work, but there's a lot of work involved, right? Like I think being in startups and seeing how the challenge, like growing users in an application is hard, right? Like churning users and winning back churn users is hard. I think Ethereum will make it with this stuff, but I think that right now seeing these different solutions come to market is important. And but there's still some time, right? Like there's a lot of different L2 options. And they're not all fully interoperable. Like on their own, you have to use like another application to do that. And so those are all signs of it being early, right? Like, and I think for application developers, it's a challenge for them because they're like, look, which one of these things do I add, right? Like, and there's not like a yet that I've seen like an SDK that's just like here, plug in this like multi-chain SDK that will do all this work for you, like And so there's some challenges, like a different set of challenges for Ethereum than for the Altel ones that are in market. Ultimately, though, like from what we're looking at is like if we can be the arena at Brave for all of this innovation, it's going to benefit the user at the end of the day because each one of these Altel ones has an ecosystem. They're not all fully interoperable yet. Like all those ecosystems are competing for TVL and for transaction volume against Ethereum, right? Like if we're getting to brass tacks, like, and ultimately the way you're going to get that is by showing value to the user that they're not going to get elsewhere. So for Brave users, us going multi-chain and cross-chain support for BAT is like important because for BAT, it'll get us competitive lending rates. And for everything else, Brave becomes this hub where like all these different areas want to play with us because we have the users. and our users can end up with a really good value, because maybe something I wanted to do over here, I can get a better rate on over there, and we can, help be a discovery vehicle for that value for those users. So we're pretty excited about it. I think it's going to be a really interesting year because the competition is really fierce, and because crypto is just savage anyway, right? Like crypto is like a purest, savage marketplace ever. And so like good, bad, and ugly. And I think, the competition that this year is going to bring is going to serve as a much needed forcing function around things like user experience, usability, stuff that's just been very badly neglected in the blockchain space for years. Finally have to get addressed now. Otherwise, you're probably going to die, right? Like that. That's the reality, right? Like if you're in it, you're in it. It's ought to be all about users now, like, and not retail investors. It's got to be users. Like,
Look,
what are users doing?
Are these 50 million monthly active users, are they searching across DuckDuckGo when they're using your browser?
That's a great question, right? So we had a partnership. We had a partnership with DuckDuckGo, right? Like as a privacy search engine. We also introduced last year Brave Search, which we acquired a company called Tailcat that had created a private search index. Yeah, it was a company called Tailcat. They were out of Europe. They spun off from a company called Clicks that had a browser in Europe, and they had created a private search engine that was an independent index. So, like you look at like a DuckDuckGo is using Microsoft Bing's search index, and they're basically like doing some measures to make it privacy preserving on top of that. But it's basically on top of Bing, right? Like, so your results are at mercy of whatever Bing's doing, right? And with us, it was important to have an independent search engine that is not, because if you think advertising is like a small tent, right? Like search engines are even smaller. Yeah, most of the search engines in the market are either Google or Bing, and they have a skin on them, basically. Like, and so with Brave Search, we wanted to introduce an independent search engine that was private on the market, and so we did that last year. And you can go to search.brave.com, and Brave searches the defaults for new users in, I think, the U.S. and a set of other countries, and we're going to be rolling it out to be the default globally this year. But yeah, like so search engine. So Brave has this private ad ecosystem, search engine, a Web3 wallet, ENS, unstoppable domains, IPFS. These are all kind of like the toolkit that's emerging. We even have like Brave Talk, which is a video conferencing service that's privacy preserving, that is basically a challenger to Zoom. So what you're starting to see is like you need an alternative in the market that's not big tech, that is user first and is connected to Web3. That's basically how Brave is positioning in the market. And for the end user, that's just bringing value, right? Like, and for people that are in the space, it's like it's bringing use cases that need to come to market around crypto that aren't only financially based, right? Like, and we've done a really good job of kind of bringing that to millions of people already.
Yeah, awesome. Well, best of luck on continuing to bring those 50 plus million people as many benefits of Web3 directly to the palms of their hands. And
yeah, thanks, man. Thank you.
Thanks for the education, Luke.
Hey, anytime. I appreciate you having me on.